Recently, Islam has been spreading in the Western world. You've seen it recently in the UK, where practically it's been controlled by Islam now. You see it in Germany. You see it in Dearborn, Michigan, in the U.S., and now it's in New York City. In fact, it's become the new Dearborn, Michigan, as Mamdani is now playing Muslim prayer music in the middle of the day out loud through the speakers. So let's actually watch the video of it.
So I guess this is Mamdani's New York now. Oh my god, they got us.
Yeah, it's become new Dearborn, Michigan. They're playing Muslim music out loud on the speakers. This makes no sense. The left advocates for a separation between church and state. They've been advocating it for a long time. And in fact, a lot of places, church bells aren't allowed to ring simply because of religious freedom and now noise laws. But here, they're playing Muslim music. It's showing their absolute hypocrisy with this. If you don't want Christians to play their music out loud and causing a noise disturbance in cities, then Muslims shouldn't be able to do that either. And this is he's been turning the entire New York City into a Islam hellscape, and it's been happening in the entirety of New York City, as he actually shut down New York, the Times Square, to have a Muslim prayer. He wouldn't do this for a Christian, and let's in fact watch the video of it.
قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
This is it's spreading throughout the entire United States, and it's an active threat to the U.S. It's been happening over and over and over again. In fact, if you look at videos and some of the videos from some Islam people from the Middle East, they say they suppressed this. They shut this down. And now it's coming to the U.S., and we're not shutting it down. In fact, we're expanding it. It's not just New York City. It's the entire state. As Governor Hattie Hochul said, the resistance, compassion, and contributions of Muslim communities help make our state stronger. Tonight, landmarks across the United States are lit green as New York celebrates Muslim Heritage Month. Christians don't get a Heritage Month. Jews don't get a Heritage Month. So why should Muslims? Hindus don't. Any other religion doesn't. So why should they? Additionally, if they're claiming Muslim Heritage Month, and in fact, Mamdani's claimed that Muslims built America, that's just factually false. Again, we are a Christian nation. Our nation, the U.S. started out as a Christian nation, having Christian values. And even today, when a decent portion of the population, including me, is not religious, I'm agnostic. We still have Christian values. We still support generally what Christians say in terms of our value system, because it's come downstream from what our parents have, from what their grandparents has said, and that's all been mostly Christian values. So a lot of the times, it's Christian values. So why is Muslim Heritage Month a thing? It shouldn't be. Additionally, I don't think it makes no sense. And it's forcing the entire state to have green on their buildings. This is unacceptable. Again, we don't have Heritage Month for Christians or Jews or Hindus or any other religion in the world. Yet this happens. It is beyond the point of where it's practically controlling the entirety of the United States. And it's causing massive issues. Simply because, look at this. In New York City, 32% of public housing and 44% of rent-stabilized apartments is occupied by foreigners. Most of these are going to be Muslim. And they're draining our money. You saw this with the Somali fraud in Minnesota, where there's daycares from the Somalian group, where there's where they're stealing millions upon millions, up to billions of dollars. In fact, the estimated fraud in Minnesota, out of the $18 billion sent over the last by the federal government over the last around 7 years, was stolen, was defrauded. And that's a ton of money. That's around $9 billion out of the $18 billion. And it's tons of money. Additionally, with this rise in Islam within the United States, you get protests that are actively calling for the murdering of other groups. You see this here. This is a protest in New York City. It's disgusting. They're saying we support Hamas here. We are Hamas here. This is disgusting. And this is in front of a synagogue in New York City. Do you know what Hamas has done? They ended up murdering 1,000 people in a terrorist attack on October 7th. And this prompted the war between Hamas and Israel in Gaza. This is clearly, when you say that, you're in front of a synagogue, and you're saying you support Hamas, you're saying you're supporting an active terrorist group which kills people, rapes people, throws people off of buildings within their own country for going against their religion, killing females for taking off their hijab. This is unacceptable. This is supporting terrorism. And honestly, supporting terrorism is a crime, and doing this, they should be arrested. They should be taken away, because supporting terrorism is anti-American values. And even if there's someone on visas there or became a citizen, became a naturalized citizen, they should also be kicked out of the country, because denaturalized and deported. Because if they're not supporting America and American values, why are they in this country in the first place? Additionally, you see they're holding the Palestine flags and they think America's so bad. Why not just go live in the Gaza Strip itself? If you're supporting a foreign country over the U.S., go to that foreign country, live in that foreign country, be in that foreign country. We do not need you here. If you are supporting a cause that's antithetical to the U.S., that is anti-U.S. in every single way. And this is what's happening in New York. Mamdani doesn't put any of this down. The feds don't put any of this down, but it needs to be put down. Additionally, I showed this video in the other day, and it was a protest in New York City. This video, they're actively advocating for the killing of others. Let's actually watch it. So you've heard that. They're saying Kristi Noem will hang. That's an active death threat. And again, Mamdani doesn't stop this. They don't put it down. Additionally, the Fed doesn't. They should. This is tacitly supporting the killing of a member of the cabinet, a high-level member of the government. They're advocating for the killing of others. And when Mamdani doesn't put this down, they don't stop this. This is supporting it by not. This is practically supporting it. If you don't do anything to stop crime and you actively ignore it, you're supporting it. This is negligence. He's supporting this by not doing anything, and this needs to be done. This needs to be arrested. These people need to be arrested for, again, threatening someone. This is illegal by all means. Threatening someone's life is illegal. So, they need to be arrested. Additionally, it wasn't just threatening Kristi Noem. It was threatening others. You can see it right there. They're advocating for the killing of federal officers that are just trying to do their job, that are trying to protect this country from pedophiles, from sex traffickers, from drug traffickers that are coming into the nation. If it's the exact, it's if you're advocating for the killing of someone, it's the exact, it's utterly illegal, completely and utterly. And I'm kind of pissed that first of all, the federal government isn't doing this, and second of all, it's showing that Mamdani's not doing anything about it either, and he's tacitly supporting this. And it's not good for the city. It's not good for the country as a whole. And I think, and if this continues to happen, people will be actually afraid to go to New York City. It's going to become a hellhole that's way worse than it is now. And it's going to skyrocket in crime. It's going to skyrocket in terrorist attacks. It's going to skyrocket in this violence that's already happening within New York. And it continues to happen. And it's going to get way, way worse before it gets way, way better. And this is not the only issue that New York has. They've had another issue, and that is housing and a lot of Mamdani's policies against it, against housing and related to housing. And it's absolutely horrible what they're doing. So Mamdani's been supporting put this person into the power as the person in charge of tenants' rights. This is Sia Weaver. And here's some of her comments in the past about private property rights and white people. One moment, it's loading. Technology has some issues here.
I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently, and it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than.
So basically what she was saying, she's going to take away a lot of housing from white people. They're going to collectivize it in communist fashion. First of all, that's highly illegal, and it's not. Property rights are supposed to be protected. But if you do that, it's going to wreck the economy. In fact, a lot of housing developers are already leaving New York City. You get less housing, less building, and that means lower supply while there's still demand, thus resulting in higher prices for people and making it worse conditions too. And they continue to do this, not just in this housing develop and this person in charge of tenants. It's not just that they're taking away from people in general, not just from the rich. But if you've heard what she said white people is who's going to really hurt here. This is a racially motivated attacks on white people and people that live in New York City that have property. It's not going to be good for the overall housing market, because if you continue to have these policies that take away private property, it's going to disincentivize investing. It's going to result in higher prices, lower supply, same amount of demand. People will leave, result in lower demand, but it's still going to destroy the city in general. Additionally, she's advocated for, besides just collectivizing it, she plans on doing higher rent controls, which is actually going to worsen the property crisis, because if you have rent control, a lot of developers won't build in that city, and when they actually have rent and say what rent is when they first build it, they'll actually hike up the rent to a point where it's incredibly high for whoever isn't in the rent stabilized apartments or whoever's in it before the thing. It doesn't incentivize it at all. In fact, it makes it much, much worse in terms of building capabilities. So overall, it's not their housing market's going to be destroyed by this, and she isn't good. And it's obvious that it's obvious it's going to be the result. And this is what happened. And yeah, it's going to be a horrible result for the properties within New York City. Additionally, it's clearly racially motivated, and honestly, we need to get someone in there to charge her and charge New York for racially targeting white people, if we show proof of it. Because the left has claimed throughout the years that the right is racially targeted African Americans, and that there's a lot of racism there. But it's clearly showing that the left is racially motivated here. They're the ones that are doing racism. Now, the left will also claim that racism is discrimination plus power, but no, that was never the definition of racism. Racism is just discrimination against any group of people. Additionally, when you have the and even in this case, even by their own definition, racism is discrimination plus power. If you're targeting white people from the federal government, that's racism, because you're using government power plus discrimination. So it is the definition of racism by their own standard. New York City is absolutely going to shit right now. And I'm actually afraid, because it's one of the most important cities in the U.S. It's one of the most populous. It has the NASDAQ. It has the New York Stock Exchange. It has all of our financial system. Is mainly based in New York City. Incredibly powerful city. So I'm worried about it. If New York City continues going down this path, which it will if Mamdani is still in power, then this might result in a collapse of a lot of our power within the U.S., a lot of our economic power, because again, it's an incredibly important city for financial reasons. And I'm overall worried for the state. I'm worried what will happen. Hopefully, this actually gets solved, but it's going to get much, much worse. And hopefully in the next election, Mamdani actually loses his power, although I don't think he will. Overall, it's sad to see what's going on in New York. It really is. But hopefully it gets resolved some way. I don't think it will, though. The best thing that we as conservatives can do is continue to call these people out. Call the person out that's in charge of tenants. Call Mamdani out for his bullshit and what he's doing to ruin the country in terms of importing people, making sure New York's sanctuary state. Call him out on everything, because the more you call him out, the more people will realize that his policies do not help him at all. And it does not help people within the state or within the country at all. But if that does not and the more you do that, the better. So that's the only solution I can really see. Or the federal government comes in and calls the Insurrection Act. Because honestly, when you have protests like the protests that are going on here with Hamas, supporting Hamas, you could invoke the Insurrection Act from Donald Trump. If you have someone calling for the killing of federal officers, you could also maybe do the Insurrection Act, because this is insurrection behavior. They're fighting against U.S. foreign policy. They're advocating for the killing of major members of government, and Mamdani himself has advocated for blocking ICE, blocking them from doing their lawful operations. So, Insurrection Act, that's another thing Donald Trump could do. Insurrection Act, come in with the National Guard, start arresting people. But until that happens, nothing will change. Nothing will help. So hopefully it does, and hopefully we can have all the solution, kicking out all the migrants, Insurrection Act. But in the meantime, conservatives should just continue to push Trump. That's another thing. Conservatives can continue to push Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act and just advocate against and keep calling out Mamdani. That's the most basic. That's what we should do from now on. Anyway, what does everyone else think? Tell me down in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.